Well, after waiting a year to see what Chibnall had in store and hearing about rumours galore, the wait is finally over. The first 2 episodes of Series 12 have landed, so let's just hope that this series expanded its ideas and added some of the things that I demanded. I promised that the whole review won't be told through rhyme, I just thought it would make the intro a little bit more sublime. Without any further ado, this is my first review of Doctor Who Series 12. Just a quick warning before we get started, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't watched the episodes yet and want to do so, then please do so now and come back to this review when you're done. Okay, 3, 2, 1, master. So part 1 opens on the Ivory Coast in West Africa, where a sniper lady is taking aim at a nearby truck, when a mysterious being emerges from a nearby stone that approaches the sniper and the sniper is killed off screen. We then cut to an aeroplane that is flying over the Pacific Ocean, where a man hands a shady lady a wash bag. She then takes the wash bag into a cubicle that looks way bigger than any aeroplane toilet that I've ever been on, but then again, I'm poor, so this just could be a business or first class flight for all I know. Anyways, the spy lady opens the wash bag and pulls out a toothpaste tube with a coded message inside it. She then snaps a picture with her BBC budget-friendly glasses before eating the evidence. All is not well, however, as the lights in the cubicle begin to flicker as one of those mysterious beings begins to appear and she is killed off screen. Finally, we cut to Moscow in Russia, and can I just vent for a second? The font that they've decided to use for each transition is quite bold and garish, and I wish they'd gone for something a little less blatant. Minor nitpicks aside though, we then cut to a spy running into an abandoned building while action music plays in the background. And while we're on the topic of music, this episode's score is certainly one of Sega Nakanola's better efforts. Now in my opinion, he still doesn't hold a candle to his predecessor, but he certainly shows signs of promise. Back in the action though, the man tells the MI6 that he is at the safe house and is waiting for extraction before slumming into a nearby seat. His rest is short, however, as another creature starts phasing through the ceiling. The creature then lunges at the agent and the opening theme tune commences. This event also made me realise how much I missed the opening sting in the previous series, as I always thought they were a good tool to add anticipation for the upcoming episode. However, my praises after this moment have become less frequent, as to be honest, this rendition of the opening titles is probably my least favourite in Who history. Don't get me wrong, I understand what they are trying to do. They're trying to harken back to the Hartnell and Troughton title sequences. However, in my opinion, what worked about those early title sequences was their simplicity, as there were only 2 colours on screen and the visual effects that there were very minimal, whereas in this latest version, colours and visual effects are a lot more abundant, leading to the mystery and eeriness that made the original title so special kind of getting lost in translation. After the titles, we cut to Sheffield, which is now apparently the central hub of the Doctor Who universe, as Ryan and his friends are playing basketball on a yacht, where Ryan misses a shot, showing that Chibnall has not entirely forgotten about Ryan's dyspraxia, and I hope that that comes up more in the upcoming series. We then witness a little chit-chat between Ryan and his unnamed friend, who lists a bunch of illnesses that Ryan has supposedly had, which we of course know are cover-ups for his time-travelling hijinks. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see that there are consequences for travelling with the Doctor, which is shown even more clearly when we get reintroduced to Yaz. However, isn't one of the main appeals of going to travel with the Doctor that the Doctor could just drop them off at the exact time and place that she picked them up? And if that has been happening, then why have the companions had to make up so many excuses? I don't know, maybe Chris Chibnall, the Doctor, just forgot the TARDIS could travel through time as well as space. We then get a cameo from Will Smith as Agent J, as Ryan is collected by MI6. We then see Yaz with her family, who are still as generic as ever, with the parent struggling to use a piece of technology, which has of course never been done in a Doctor Who episode before this. We also get Yaz's sister asking Yaz for Ryan's number, which she refuses to give her. We then get the scene that I spoke about earlier, with Yaz handing in a secondment to go on space field trips with Miss Magic Blue Box, followed by the spies acquiring Yaz. We then cut to Graham in a hospital, but I'm going to assume it's a private hospital due to the fact that there are barely any people in it, and that he signs his name on an iPad. I mean, damn, Graham must be doing well for himself. What does he do again? He's an out-of-work bus driver. Anyway, the Doc gives him the all clear, and we get a quick mention of Grace, which I suppose keeps the continuity consistent, but aside from that, this line of dialogue doesn't really serve any sort of purpose. Graham also gets collected, completing this episode's character roster. All that's left now is to catch up with our two-hearted time-travelling protagonist, who, get this, is doing an MOT on the TARDIS. Now, I understand that this has clearly been exaggerated for the sake of comedy, but really think about this for a second. The Doctor is supposedly making repairs to the interior of her TARDIS from the exterior, and it should be pretty clear to most of you why this doesn't work. In case you're wondering though, the TARDIS interior occupies a separate dimension to the exterior, which explains how such a large room can sit in such a small space. So really all those wires would be connected to is a bunch of wood. Jodie's make-believe repair session is cut short, however, as the famous fam arrive with a ton of security. Graham then comments on this being the worst Uber ever, when it's very clear to everyone that the Doctor wasn't aware of these geezers, so the joke doesn't really make any sense. Don't get me wrong, I'm fine with jokes in Who. Hell, the Russell T Davies era, which is by far the strongest era in New Who in my opinion, had tons of jokes thrown into it. The difference though is that when Russell writes comedic dialogue, it feels like it makes sense for the characters to be responding that way to the situation. But when Chris writes comedic dialogue, it just kind of feels like it's been slapped in there because he wants to keep the tone as light as possible. That aside, a single car, not sure what the point of those other cars were if you're just gonna immediately abandon them. I mean, it would probably make more sense to have all of them picked up in one car, but anyway, the car head towards Cardiff Bay, MI6, as the quartet discuss their plan, which basically boils down to just sit and wait. We then get Budget Atmos firing lasers at everyone. Now you would have thought that people would have learned that trusting one big company with control over all cars was a bad idea after the Atmos incident. Although then again, their memory of that could have been wiped by the Big Bang at the end of Series 5. I don't know, Doctor Who lore is almost as hard to follow as the numerous plot threads this two-parter has. The car then begins driving itself, and locking everyone inside. 13 tries using her magic wand in order to break the lock, which actually fails, which happens quite frequently in this episode, which I'm happy about, as in the previous series, and even some of Chibnall's earlier Doctor Who writing efforts, the Sonic acted as a far too convenient solution to many of the problems that the Doctor and co faced. And I'm glad that that wasn't the case for this episode, and I hope that carries through for the rest of the series. The car tries to kill our heroes, however the Doctor manages to stop the car just before going off the edge of an unfinished road. The voice of Stephen Fry is then heard on the car's comms, and the gang all accuses MI6 of trying to kill them. The man's name is revealed to be C, who wanted 13 and her comrades brought to London. We then get 2 huge white text flashes in quick succession, before cutting into MI6 headquarters, where the TARDIS has been transported inside, and C mistakes Graham for the Doctor. Jodie then cuts in and refers to her gender swap as being an upgrade, which is something I'm not keen on. And to clarify, I wasn't keen when one was being sexist in Twice Upon a Time. So this isn't me saying, oh, woe is me, being a man is so hard. It's more me saying that I don't like it when the Doctor is overtly sexist to females or males, as I personally believe it goes against the idea that the Doctor is tolerant towards everyone, even if it's supposed to be a joke. Anyways, the Doctor reprimands C for having them brought in like criminals, and Gaz tries her best to be part of the conversation, but fails miserably. C then says that all intelligence agencies around the world need the Doctor's help, and we get some exposition about agents being taken out around the world. We then get shown the body of one of the agents. The Doctor then says that everything inside her has been erased, confirming that it wasn't a human who did this, thank God. We then get a scene in which the Doctor and her companions get to choose their gadgets for their mission. Apparently, all the agents were investigating a man called Daniel Barton, who is essentially the Zuckerberg of the Doctor Who universe, despite Facebook being referenced in part 2, but whatever. C explains that Daniel's company Vor, which is probably the most generic tech company in the history of movie and TV tech company names, is more powerful than most nations due to its stranglehold on the world's tech. He then explains that he fired the only person who believed in aliens because of other organisations that handle those sorts of things like UNIT and Torchwood. However, 13 confirms that both of those organisations are gone, something that I thought the Doctor would want to rectify, as they provide valuable protection for the Earth while she's away, but alas, she did not. So 13 calls O, who is apparently the only one who can help, and he sends her a picture of a fish. More on that later. Not before 13 can spout some cringy dialogue though. C begins giving Team TARDIS more information, but before he can finish, he's assassinated by an off-screen sniper, because the sniper is aware that the BBC can only afford Stephen Fry for so long, so he did the BBC a favour by removing him from the episodes as quickly as possible. Jeez, what a nice guy. I sure hope he doesn't turn out to be an evil renegade Time Lord.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Headshot.
Nah, I'm just being silly now. The team start getting shot at once again, and the phasing monsters, which from now on I'm just going to call the ghosts, for convenience, begin cornering everyone. The Doctor and co make it back to the TARDIS, though, and 13 reveals that the fish image from earlier, told you it would come back, contains the coordinates of O's hideout. And can I just say how much better the colour grading is in this episode and the lighting? It really struck me when they entered the TARDIS, because in the previous series the interior was so darkly lit that you could barely see anything, and the less saturated colours only served to amplify the feeling that the TARDIS had been transformed into a dingy cave. So good job people who changed that, it looks infinitely better. Moving on, luckily 13's jabbering is cut short as one of the ghosts begin to phase through the TARDIS. The Doctor manages to dematerialise the ship in time though, and I've already explained why this line is dumb, so I'm not going to do that again. Instead what I'm going to do is play a clip from a previous video. Oh, I didn't think anything could get inside the TARDIS, and then the Doctor's like, neither did I, and then the Cyberman, what I assume to be a Cyberman, is making its way through the TARDIS doors. Now, for your entertainment, I'm just going to put a little compilation in this video of every time something's made it into the TARDIS. What?
she's after the TARDIS. Just get out, both of you. You're gonna die!
Then shown that the sonic plot fixer can't tell what these things are, which you know means that they're not your standard Doctor Who fare entity. Also, on an unrelated note, was the TARDIS table always there? I mean, I know the TARDIS stairs and doors were a new addition, but I'm not sure whether the table is or not. If you guys have any idea, let me know in the comments below. So the Doctor decides to split up the Fantastic Four, which, side note, is something that I hope we see a lot more of in the future, as it makes the higher number of companions a lot more manageable. So the plan is that the Doctor and Graham will head to the Outback and meet O, while Ryan and Yaz gather intel on Daniel Musk. Graham also actually shows some concern for Ryan's safety, which is something I really wanted to see more of in the previous series, although it's a little late now, since it would have made a lot more sense within the context of Series 11. After all, he's just watched his wife die, and he wouldn't want the same thing to happen to Ryan, but whatever, I'm still glad it's here. We then cut to Ryan and Yaz in San Francisco preparing for their meeting, and something that I really appreciated is that due to Yaz's police training, she's totally calm about the whole thing while Ryan is shitting his pants, like I'm sure most of us would be doing if we were infiltrating a multi-billionaire's office. This is also one of the few jokes that I really appreciated.
Why are you looking so worried?
I decided my spy name would be Logan. And no, I'm worried I don't look anything like you, Jackman.
The two then enter the building, and we are finally introduced to Daniel Barton, played by Lenny Henry, who I'm happy to report is much better utilised than Stephen Fry in this story. He is also accompanied by his assistant, who is dressed weirdly similarly to the second Doctor. Whether the reference was intentional or not, like Osgood's clothing, I don't know, but I can't have been the only one who saw this, right? We are then shown quite blatantly that Barton isn't a nice dude, because he casually mentions firing half his PR team, that his assistant quickly covers up. We then cut once again to the Great Victoria Desert, where we are introduced to O, alongside the Australian Secret Service. And it was at this moment right here where I started to have my doubts about O. And do you want to know why? Well, you see, in the build-up to Series 12, I covered a lot of the rumours surrounding the series, and one of the rumours that I heard about, but decided not to cover, was that Sacha Dhawan, aka this guy, was going to be playing a brand new incarnation of the Master in Series 12. Now, ironically, I didn't believe this rumour because I thought it was way too early to have the Master back after what felt like a natural conclusion to that character's story in The Doctor Falls, but nope, I was wrong. While we're on the topic of Dhawan, a little bit of trivia for you, he played Waris Hussein, who was Doctor Who's first director in Adventure in Space and Time. And although he was fantastic in that, I wasn't sure whether that would translate to the role of the Master, seeing as Waris was a quite timid, reluctant person in Adventure in Space and Time. But once again, I was happily mistaken. We then get the Doctor and Graham awkwardly meeting O before heading inside his house for a spot of tea. We then find out that O had been gathering evidence on alien life and has become very defensive, with many security systems around his house. We then cut back to Ryan and Yaz, where we get a mandatory jab at Legacy Media from Barton because technology bad. Barton then searches them up and finds their faked profiles. Yaz has well-structured questions while Ryan struggles with the DNA reading camera. Yaz lays it on a bit thick with the questioning, which Barton isn't a fan of. And can I just say a question real quickly? Why do big CEOs in TV shows and movies agree to do interviews like this if they know they're going to be asked some questions that they won't like? Is it to maintain a good image? Because it's not as if they're legally obligated to participate in them. I mean, I know Barton says that he's doing it for his mum, but really, if you're trying to keep aliens under your hat, would you really organise a meeting with people while your plans are getting underway? I don't know. That's just always seems strange to me. We then get some dialogue that indicates that he's on to Yaz and Ryan before an emergency forces him to cut the meeting short. Yaz and Ryan do, however, manage to snag some tickets to a birthday bash that Barton's having. Try saying that 3 times fast. As well as duplicate his access pass through the camera thingy and find out through the DNA scanner that the Doctor gave them that Barton is only 93% human, leading Yaz and the rest of us to wonder what the other 7% is. Back at the hut, the guards are patrolling and feel things moving when a shadow flies past the camera, and O and the rest of the IT crowd are notified on the computer. O then ominously asks the Doctor what she's brought here, and 13 decides that the best course of action is to take a peek at the dangerous unknown alien threats that are outside. And Graham's response pretty much embodies my feelings towards this plan. The Doctor once again waves her silver wand around, only to find no readings once again. We then get another hint that O might be more than he seems, through a very ominous line about the threat being like animals stalking their prey. Then the guard reprimands 13 for trying to gather evidence of the oncoming threat. I mean, okay. And Graham convinces 13 to head back inside. The lights begin to go out in a very similar fashion to Blink, where the angels manipulate the lights so that they can keep moving when Sally and her friend's eyes are open. One of the guards locates one of the ghosts, and the 2 guards get ambushed by an army of ghosts. And as the ghosts investigate their prey, the Doctor intervenes, causing them to begin advancing towards the house. O then activates an electronic force field, which temporarily hinders them. And it was this shot right here that made me think that these were actually Cybermen, just by the way their hands were held above their heads, reminded me of what Cybermen do when they're malfunctioning. However, this was not the case. One of the ghosts continues towards the house, though phasing inside with ease. However, they managed to trap it inside a glass box, despite the fact that they just said that physical boundaries can't stop it. Luckily, they managed to reroute the power before the ghost remembers that it could actually phase through the glass, and the Doctor then tries and fails to get intel out of it, other than the fact that it says that it's from far beyond the Doctor's understanding, and that they take their form to mock humans, or in the Doctor's case, humanoids. They then say that they are stable and ready to take over the universe. We then cut back to Vor HQ as Ryan and Yaz are snooping around. Using their new toys, they head into Barton's office and try and download his computer's data. We also get a throwaway line about a thing in a case that turns out to be important in the next part of the story. It's small, but I appreciated the foreshadowing. We then see Barton heading towards his office on one of the CCTV cameras. We then get confirmation that Ryan is into Yaz's sister, which could potentially lead to an interesting relationship between the 3 of them in future episodes if handled correctly. Barton arrives in his office and Ryan and Yaz manage to hide and bear witness to a confrontation before Yaz gets zapped by the ghosts into Noodle Land. In all seriousness though, I thought the design of Noodle Land was pretty cool. So much so in fact that I kinda wish it just was more than just a hub to get from one place to the other. It was also nice to see Yaz actually afraid, as I felt that too often in Series 11, the companions saw their travels with the Doctor as one big thrill ride. We then see Yaz's presence is having a direct effect on the ghosts, and that more of them are surrounding the Vor building. We then see that the place that Yaz was in act as a sort of network for the ghosts to get from one place to the next, and that when the white light touches Yaz, she gets transported to the cage that the Doctor put one of the ghosts in. How convenient. We then have a chat between Ryan and Yaz, which was okay, however I do wish Yaz had spent some more time in the place, so that this scene could be a bit more impactful. We then get a chat between Graham and O, where he says he's met the Doctor once before when he was a man. And this was what made me even more suspicious of O, as he was entirely unfazed by the fact that the Doctor had changed gender. Something that makes zero sense to me, though, is that Graham's response to this is that he thought the Doctor was joking about her gender swap. And the reason that doesn't work for me is that she mentions it multiple times across series 11 and 12. The fact that O also has so much info on the Doctor made me suspicious too. We then get a bunch of exposition about Vor, while the Doctor tries to decode an alien language hidden inside Barton's company data. It's revealed that the ghosts are alien spies, and that the alien language are coordinates for different Earths, and they decide to head to Barton's party looking for answers. O's grin when seeing the TARDIS is fantastically subtle yet undoubtedly evil. We then see our protagonists arrive at Barton's party rocking some new thread, of which the Doctor's is so much better than what she actually wears that I wish that this was her permanent outfit. They then go a little bit overboard with the spy part of SPYFALL, with a James Bond inspired remix of the music, and the Doctor saying that cringy line from the trailer. We then see that Barton is onto Ryan and Yaz, with some security footage of their infiltration from earlier. We then see that our heroes are having perhaps a little bit too much fun gambling, while 13 is playing Snap and making me sink into my chair with embarrassment while doing so. We then get hints of a possible romantic relationship between Yaz and O that probably isn't going to end well. We then get 13 trying to intimidate Barton, looking more like an arrogant child than a powerful alien while doing so. A motorcycle chase then ensues that goes on for way too long before they arrive at an airport and chase down a plane like a mum chases down their child. Once on the plane, it's revealed that, shock horror, O is actually the Master. Who'd have thought it? Dewan steals the show in these few minutes though, making me hopeful that we see more of him in the upcoming series. We see that the Master has planted a bomb in the cockpit, it detonates, and the Master tells the Doctor that everything she knows is a lie, before hitching a teleport ride with the ghosts and disappearing the Doctor to Noodle Land. And with that, we cut to the credits. Whew, okay, so what did I think? This episode marks a definite improvement for Chris Chibnall Doctor Who, with some interesting concepts, character development, and great performance by Sacha Dhawan as the Master. However, it's let down by some convenient events, cringy jokes that don't make a lot of sense, and a main protagonist that still isn't very likeable, which is why I'm giving SPYFALL Part 1 a 6.5 out of 10. Have you been craving some high quality merch that doesn't have She Who Shall Not Be Named on the cover? Are you struggling to get a gift for a family member or relative after they seem to have everything after Christmas? Well, fear not, as I have the perfect solution. Introducing Thary's merch! Not only is this merch high quality and affordable, but if you purchase it you'd also be helping me, which means a lot. But I didn't stop at just shirts. Oh no. On the Thary's merch store you can get notepads, hoodies, mugs, and more. Just visit the link in the description below, and on screen now. Because hey, every penny you spend in the Thary's merch store is a penny that the BBC won't see. And I think that that's something we should all be proud of.
Oh, look down there, you got a little shop. I like a little shop.
Never mind that.